Hello again, Eridos here, and currently I am shooting this video with just over a week before Anime Fargo starts, and this video is to act as kind of a promotion for a bunch of the games I'm going to be running. So basically, if you've been looking at the schedule and you've been seeing the games I've listed, and you're probably wondering just what these games are, I hope this video will actually give you an idea of what these games are, how they play, and maybe generate some interest in the people watching to see if you want to play these games. Now, I'm not going to go into every single detail, or else this video will be way too long, but I hope to give you a general idea of how these games are played and just what to expect if you come to play these games. The first game I'll be running at Anime Fargo is Tenokure, which is a deck building game. For those who have no idea how a deck building game works, think of it like a trading card game, whereas you don't buy the cards from packs at your stores. Instead, all the cards are included in the main set, and you buy the cards from resource piles on the table. Basically, your deck has resources that you can buy cards, and you use the cards that you buy to buy more cards or gain points to go towards victory. The game ends when 2 or 3 resource piles are bought up completely. The number of resource piles that need to be bought up depends completely on the number of players playing. Now, the Tenokure's gimmick, compared to other deck building games, is its chambering system, which basically allows you to take cards and put them into a private chamber next to your deck, which basically removes them from your deck, freeing your deck up for other cards. And usually chambering a maid will give you a certain point value, usually a multiplier depending on how many cards you've actually put in your private chambers sometimes, or just getting them out of your deck. But also, maids that are put in your private chambers are also susceptible to cards like Bad Habit and Illness. Illness taking them out of the game, and Bad Habit just giving you minus victory points, which can be pretty bad, but there are ways to counter these. Now then, I have all 4 games here. I have the original, I have the Expanding the House expansion, I have the Romantic Vacation expansion, and I have the Oktoberfest expansion. The expansions also have their own little gimmicks. For example, Tenokure introduces private maids, which private maids are the special cards that are instantly put in your private chambers, and the private maid will basically give you a special ability every turn, so long as they're on the top of your private maid deck. If you replace them with another private maid, then you get the different ability of that different private maid. Expanding the House still has the private maids, but they also have buildings. Buildings still are worth victory points, but they do not count towards the resource pile limit, which basically means that if all the buildings are bought up, it doesn't count towards the resource piles that need to be bought up in order to end the game. Romantic Vacation actually doesn't have private maids, not counting any of the promo cards that were included. Instead, Romantic Vacation has the Reminisce cards, which again are worth victory points, but it also acts as a different time limit, because in the Reminisce pile, there is a special card that is not only worth the most victory points, but also, when bought, ends the game completely. So yeah, it acts as a new time limit. Oktoberfest, the final expansion that's been released so far, is basically has the beer cards, which basically beer cards are also worth victory points, but they also have a alcohol count. And depending on your alcohol count will actually determine certain card abilities, or will trigger certain cards to behave in a certain way. And of course, there are cards in there to actually lose beer, usually used by your opponents to make sure that you lose those victory points. Anyway, that is my rundown of Tanto Cuore, and I will be going to the next game I'll be running. The next game I'll be running at Anime Fargo is Super Dungeon Explorer, which its theme is an arcade-style dungeon crawler like Gauntlet. The object is, of course, to beat the final boss of the game, either by running out the timer or destroying all the spawn points. Now, the spawn points are kind of self-explanatory if you know your video game logic, because that's where all the monsters are coming from. So destroying them will make the monsters just not spawn from those areas. And of course, leaving the spawn points open and not destroying them within the time limit means that the final boss gets extra actions every turn, which of course can be very bad for a hero. Now then, normally you can actually play this game with just 2 players, but playing it with 2 players means that one person has to control multiple heroes, where the other person has to control all the monsters. But the rules also allow for multiple people to control individual heroes, while one person controls all the monsters, much like a standard tabletop role-playing game. As you can see, I have several expansions. I have a lot of individual character expansions, as well as the Von Drake Manor level expansion, which of course gives alternate monsters and bosses. I do not have Forgotten King, which is the more recent main expansion that actually gives a new revised rule set, as well as a different style of play. There is also going to be Super Dungeon Legends due out next year, which will actually make this game play as a more campaign-based, as well as a second edition of the core set I have here. We're going to be sticking with the first edition core set and the various expansions that I already have. Anyway, as you can see, there's treasure chests across the map, which can give you special treasures. Of course, you might want to be careful because some treasures might be an actual monster. I have several kobolds, which I've just finished painting all the kobolds for this. I also have Undead, which is the Von Drake Manor's expansion. I have 2 main bosses. I have a lot of mini-bosses, which are bosses that will spawn halfway through the game, as well as a lot of heroes, ranging from ninjas, mages, catgirls, werewolves who can shapeshift, angels, as well as characters from the company's other game, Relic Knights, which of course I have 2 over here. I would like to get more sometime down the lines. And this game, as you can see, has a chibi-fied kind of art style, which actually fits well with this year's theme of Kawi. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get flack for mispronouncing that, but anyway, let's take a look at the next game I'll be running. The next game I'll be running is Gurram Aria. This is a very unique card game, really. Think of it like Magic the Gathering meets Pokemon with a little Yu-Gi-Oh! Just little Yu-Gi-Oh! Sprinkled in there. The object of the game is to summon monster girls and defeat your opponents, or capture opposing monster girls. We have item cards, we have monster cards, and we have these cards, which are the Grimoire cards. Grimoire cards are the special cards that allow you to capture a monster of any similar type. Now then, captures can be countered. For example, if I used a defense, I can counter with an attack, either with another grimoire or a monster of that type. Then someone could try to recapture by countering with a HP type monster. It's fairly simple to pick up once you learn the rules, although it is kind of hard to explain without actually visually showing you how all the mechanics work. And as I said, there are also item cards in the game, which can either be equipped onto monsters, or some are just one-time use. Another ability of the game is that you can also perform a union, which is basically fusing two monsters together. As you can see, I just turn this to the side and stick it under like so, giving the monster I've just unioned an extra boost in her health. Well, actually her attack. Green is boost to health, blue is boost to defense, and red is boost to attack. Again, not a whole lot to explain, but it is kind of difficult to explain without actually visually showing you how the mechanics work. This will be my second Saturday game. The first one being Super Dungeon Explorer. I forgot to mention I am running Super Dungeon Explorer on the 24th of September. This will be running later in the afternoon, evening. And I will be getting on to the next game I'll be running. And now we go on to Queen's Blade, which is basically this particular game, part of the Lost World system, is something I run at every convention I go to. This will be an 18+ game due to its notorious use of fan service. It will be run late at night on the 23rd and 24th, well after the dealer rooms and whatnot are closed. So this will not only be open to attendees, but this will be open to vendors and artists and anyone who wants to attend. Matches in this game are fairly quick, only takes a few minutes. In fact, I just played a match yesterday, ended in one hit. Yeah, so basically, the mechanics of these games is kind of like a fighting game version of Choose Your Own Adventure, each book representing one character, and each book coming with a character sheet, which, as you can see, I have some of the Japanese books with translated character sheets. I have most of my books with translated character sheets now. Some are fairly small and still fit inside the book, and other ones are a little large. I really would like to thank the Queensblade Wiki for providing the translations for most of my books, as well as providing me with a brand new quick start guide, which will go over all the mechanics of what beats what. Because when you get down to it, the game kind of plays like rock, paper, scissors, where everything can have something that can counter it. You just gotta know what to use in what situation, and much like a fighting game, with a little practice, you can get really good at this. And you can probably just play matches fairly quickly, a few minutes at a time. Probably get a few matches in before you have to go anywhere. And basically, people can come and go as they please, so long as they reach the required age limit for this. And I have quite a few books. In fact, you could probably see in the background my 2 giant boxes worth of these books. And I don't just have Queensblade, I have the battle books, which are comic books with Wolverine, Spider-Man, and whatnot. These do not work with Lost Worlds. I also have the Lightsaber Duels pack, which was Vader and Luke, which was, although unofficial, is compatible with this series. I also have a bunch of Lost Worlds books, including the Knights of the Dinner Table series, all 4 of those characters, as well as a few generic fantasy characters, as well as samurai, ninja, and even a gunslinger. So there should be enough characters available that you can find something that suits your tastes or your play style. And as you can see, I also have books from every main series in the Queensblade series. I have basic Queensblade. There were some that were English translated. I don't have all the English translated ones, but those that I have that are still in Japanese do have translations with them. I have Rebellion, which I am pretty sure, yeah, all of them have translations now. All of them have card translations, so you don't have to look through my translation sheets to know what the cards say. Almost all of my Queen's Gate books have been translated, so most of them will be usable. All of my Queensblade Rebellion books have been translated, and especially this one, the Airy Live book, which plays differently than the original character book. This will be the first time I'll actually have this available for use, because when I first got this, there was actually no translation of the Lives books, so I'd really like to thank the people of the Queensblade Wiki for getting me a translation for that book. And as I said, this is going to be 2 nights, 18 plus, 9 o'clock, so if you can meet the age requirements and if you want to play out a few fights, then come in and just see who's the better fighter. And that's basically about it for the games that I have revealed for Anime Fargo this year. Now then, I did say that there was one other game I'm going to be running, and it's going to be a mystery. What might it be? Well, here's a few possibilities. Might be these, might not. One of these, who knows? All I'm saying is I ain't telling. You're gonna have to come to the convention and find out for yourself. Well, that's my video, and I hope to see you at Anime Fargo this year. Bye!